Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Oh, I am in this sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we run. 50 years we strong and more to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, as we aspire, build up ourselves, one people together.
Welcome to Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, or generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the important education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure you do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick.
Wonderful, 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 folks. It's such a beautiful Sunday. Hot on the outside, hot like fire. It seems like our our heat wave section of the year has begun. But just remember, the early predictions for hurricanes seem to be very, very high. So we're looking at about 23 named storms this particular season. So study among your head. Be prepared. It is better to be over prepared and nothing happens than for you not to be prepared at all and so much can happen. So study your heads. Welcome to Edification, our 212th edition for this fair Sunday, 7th April 2024. Of course, April is the month that was promised to us as the prosperity month to make up for all the previous months where promises and plans were not met. It is up to us to reset and remodel our mental faculties so that we can receive. Attitudes must change. Folks, from the word go, you must have an idea where this is planning to take you today. So do the usual. Do some sharing. Share, share, share. Tag your friends. Comment, like, love. Obey some commands today too, because the truth is, I'll be asking you to put some things in the comment section as part of the interactive nature of this program. So I want you to listen carefully so that you can, manifest these things in your life. So let's have an interactive session today and see if we can top all our previous programs for that matter. It is very opportune for us to start with some more positive news for our humble political leader who continues to excel. It's not often in the past, and worse yet, during that period 1995 to 2022, for the most part, our beloved Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, was ever recognized. We haven't seen any of that kind of positive recognition in the past. From shame and scandal, we have evolved into a people that we truly are, proud and focused in spite of the noise. Because we're hearing a lot of noise from irrelevant quarters of irrelevance. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell placed third on the People's Choice for the best Caribbean global leader, on which President of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, has been voted number 1. While, of course, Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley placed second. The Caribbean Global Awards is an annual event dedicated to recognizing and celebrating excellence in the various domains, highlighting the achievements of individuals and organizations that contribute significantly to the growth and prosperity of the Caribbean region. Folks, that is something to celebrate. Not all this old rubbish that we used to be party to, with all this satanic nonsense that used to be going in and over Grenada. We now have a decent Mitchell running the country. So since the satanic curse has been broken over Grenada, great things have been in the offing, in spite of the noise. Of course, the freeloaders and treasure feeders will not agree with us since their parasitic activities have been cut off on June 23rd, 2022. The new mantra is, by the sweat of thy brow, they shall eat bread. If they don't want to sweat and they're not prepared to sweat, they should starve, because the treasury, the free loading is over. Because these idiots have had a long time to get accustomed to not working, to earn their keep, they are complaining how things hard. And since the government changed, they are made to eat the bread the devil need. Well, that's the bread among you. Eat it. Go to your devil in Diamond or Happy Hill, wherever he's located. Go by your devil and let your devil feed you. You see, that might just be true for anyone who's prepared to sit back, feel entitled, and resist moving away from dependence. Get up and get. Just remember, you will be paid according to your level. If you have no desirable level, expect to be paid at that undesirable level. You don't get paid to suit the cost of living. Hell no. Your current level will allow you to eat and live at that level. Go and improve yourselves so that your ignorance, which is equal to incomplete knowledge, will not lead you to the miserable end you are headed towards. Today's topic: ignorance equals incomplete knowledge and leads to a miserable end. Around us these days, we can see loudly, just look around, too much marketing of personal credentials. Who have, well have, and who don't have, making up and contriving things that just don't belong to them in order to be accepted. That has to be contributing actively to many of us not being able to manifest greatness in our lives. If we're born to stand out, why are so many of us concentrating on fitting in? If we consider God our Father, don't you find it is high time for us to show some of our Father's traits in us? The God many of us want others to believe we follow does not work half-heartedly. Remember, the scribes and Pharisees were not the disciples. It was ordinary folks like fishermen. This is precisely why, as ordinary folks, we need that reset in order to remodel our living, our way of living. Remodel it, reset it. We were all born for greatness, folks. Not just some of us. But the reason why some are advancing to greatness is because they are prepared to do what it takes to reap that reward in the end. When we wake each morning, we have to start with realizing the small things that are most important in our lives are usually supplied daily without fail. Let's start with the conditions of day and night, where the sun or the moon and stars shine brightly. The fresh, uncontaminated air that we breathe in our neck of the woods, the rainfall that takes care of our vegetation, the clean and pristine sea from which we can get healthy fish, the shelter we have to call our home, the food we can still afford for our families, the clothes we wear, the fresh, clean water we drink, the friends and family we have. And you know, that list of free but desirable things can go on to no end. We have too many blessings for us to behave as ignorant as we behave because of our made-up lack. Most of the things we lack are not necessary in our lives. After all, how long have we lived without them? And yet we live. That house or apartment that you now live in may not be the house or apartment you are happy with, but you are properly sheltered. That car you may drive today may not be a Benz or a BMW, even though you wished you had one of those, but you're not walking. That job you currently do may not be the dream job that you feel you deserve, but at least you are employed with regular income, without which dog would be better than you. You see, something is always better than nothing, so be grateful, please. Our ignorance, our current level of incomplete knowledge of the laws of the universe, governing life and all its trials and blessings, has proved all too often to be the death of all of us. We should never tolerate ignorance in ourselves and by and from anyone. It is dangerous. Ignorance, others who think they are smarter than you, take advantage of you and manipulate you to their personal benefit. When people are faced with incomplete knowledge, the equations will always not add up. Incomplete knowledge is the sponsor of life's imbalance. Incomplete knowledge or ignorance makes people ignore priorities and makes asses of themselves in their own lives. I know this man who has many properties, yet he continues to behave gluttonously for more. Through deceit, he gets people
who consider him a friend to back down on areas they will discuss with him, and then they get to discover that after he would have advised them out of it, he gobbled up the said property. Such man could never understand the saying, in the end, the only property you would go and be with is one as small as 4 feet wide, 10 feet long, and 6 feet deep. Yet, as fast as people find him out to be deceitful and greedy with it, he loses real friends and ends up lonely as a result. Any stranger looking on at the life of such man would adjudge him successful. Yet for all, he is lonely for different reasons. It is not that he is on the right track with what he's doing and how he's proceeding. Instead, he is lonely because of his connivance, because of his deceit, because of his dishonesty and greed, all undesirable traits that cause decent humans to stay away from him. With all his material possessions, you would be hard pressed to find anyone who has anything good to say about the fabric of such man. And that is sad indeed. I know many of you know people like that. Too many people around us have taken their example from the old nastiness and are ending up in a sad and sorry state for it, notwithstanding how much money and material acquisitions they have gathered over the years. You see, the old nastiness was around for so long that when people became devoid of values, they easily gravitated to the methods used by this inferior example and became absorbed by them. This has contributed in large part to the totally inferior society we live in today, where most people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Visit any of our social media platforms and you will see the number of false profiles all about. And I'm not talking about profiles without picture and with a basket of flowers or a basket of fruit. I'm not talking about that kind of false or fake, I'm talking about even people we know projecting false images of themselves. Some of them hardly have a meal to eat, but their priority is on posting themselves to look better than they really are. You think these people can be really helped? No, because they are projecting falseness, so they will always be hungry. As I said, people are living in spaces short of being crab holes. Yet for all, you can't dress like them. You cannot afford 2 ultra-modern smartphones, but they can. They have no running water in their dwelling, no flush toilet within their compounds, pot empty and finger greasy with KFC daily. Their careers are suffering and their levels stagnant because of not much between the ears. Attitude stinks to high heaven. But as I said, you cannot dress better than them. These same people are in every fete and festival and happy to tell you they were in VVIP. And the only reason they end up in VIP at all is because VVIP was full. This time at the cost of hundreds of dollars. Many of these same people are bold enough to tell you otherwise, how the economy is slow and things bad with them, just because they have not got their priorities lined up properly. Isn't that sad, folks? Spreading nonsense and others feeding off that crap and repeating that nonsense. I recall telling you, Kirani James gave active life to a word. And what is that word? Discipline. And sprinted from abject poverty into international fame and riches. As long as you continue to sit on your laurels and do nothing about it, your current circumstances will remain the same or deteriorate. You will remain ignorant and full of incomplete knowledge, which will lead to a miserable end, where you will surely be tools to be used by manipulators like that old nastiness that you mistake for savior. Let's take a little break, folks, and we'll come back with a lot more fire.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family. So every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for. Oh, island in this land. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with much divine. Still reaching for more. Going up, up, and more. Going up, up, higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, wonderful. Welcome back. And for those of you just joining, I'd like to say thank you, a warm welcome to this program this afternoon. Folks, look at how long we have been independent as a nation. And yet for all, so many people are to be discovered without proper flush toilets in their homes, operating and living in virtual squalor, in spite of their active support for certain politicians, especially the old nastiness over the years. But when you elect to be blind, no matter what, no one can make you see anything. Of course, this reminds me of cognitive dissonance, where people hold a core belief that is very, very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against the belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It creates a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable, cognitive dissonance. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and deny anything that doesn't fit in with the core belief. Cognitive dissonance. All of the politicians prior to 23rd June 2022, especially from 1995 for the most part, have flush toilets in their houses, but never thought it fit to embark on a program to upgrade the citizens of Grenada to their level. Instead, what we find is that they devise schemes to register those same people for monthly pittances that could hardly do anything for their well-being on any scale that will change their lives and cause them to grow. You see, just low-maintenance gifts meant to hook them into the perpetual support so they, the inferior politicians, can continue to prosper while their constituents are heaped onto the vote farm to continue to support them and remain in abject poverty. When ignorance abounds among a nation, we would find too many people doing the best they know on the restricted knowledge they have, which is never enough to give them what they desire. When things change, because of their blindness, they could never see the change as good for them, even though they are benefiting much, much more. It is like losing $1 and becoming sad when someone comes to your aid, having heard your issue to support your sadness, give you $5. You jubilate for a minute, then you get back sad again. Why? Because in your mind, if you did not lose that $1, you would have had 6. Foolish. Such people are programmed to resort to blaming others for their lack. And with pieces of the truth, they attempt to produce the results they crave to no end, thus feeding the blame game. It is generally said that blessed is the man who is courageous, confident, and brave, and who has integrity. But we should run from anyone who embodies those said qualities who have no integrity. Grenada has proved to be full of the latter. We experienced it in the old nastiness and his brigands, for instance. Out of power, and they continue along their path to show how brave they are to peddle lies and promises, and even attempt to interpret the positive developments around which they never had in mind for the people of this country, which are effortlessly carried out by the new administration that in just under 2 years making strides to give our people a true and genuine 21st century experience, almost 25 years into the said 21st century. Could you believe that? For many of us, it is like the 21st century just started, even though we are 25 years late. That video in circulation with that old nastiness, dancing and pretending as if he having a good time with the people, as if he likes them, is a true demonstration of the deceptive nature of that has been. Even in the dancing, you can see 2 things from his body language which dwells in the past. 1, all you so stupid, I have all your way, I want all you. And 2, a warped sense of today's reality. So he proceeds to entertain as he knows how with irrelevance. Always look with critical and analytical eyes at everything that old nastiness does. And you will be able to see the age group of the people he has been able to take and make all his effort to manipulate them by making asses of them time and time again. Just look at their age group. Any blind man can see that it does not take much effort to manipulate these people, as many of them never picked up a book while in school or ever, far less now. This makes them fit candidates for his continuous manipulation. They possess degrees of ignorance that make them a fit for his foolishness. We all have to thank God that Grenada's youth have to continue to show him this old nastiness, that is, together with Faye Gwengwe, who is another one that joined the political stage for so goddamn long and met her constituents poor and lowly, not to mention ignorant. And though she has been able to gather a measure of wealth over the period, leads the people in their ignorance to perpetual poverty. In fact, many of our constituents are worse off today than they ever were prior to her advent into politics. For sure, she is one that should be taken to a public square and flogged regularly for her lack of vision and total selfishness. There's another one. If you look carefully at body language, you could see she broke. She's lost her shine. Lost her shine. And even with irrelevance, trying to see how she can put herself in the limelight again. But the luster is gone. You could just look at that one and see brokenness all over, and destitution almost. I had to tell someone recently to stop judging others by their own standards. And that person has high standards. Not because the cost of living is high. People must get paid at a certain level to augment their standard of living and quality of life. No, they must think first of their quality of life and their standard of living, and do all they need as background work to take care of their own standard of living and quality of life. First off, they must be worth it. They must be productivity minded, and they must come to the table at the requisite level of education to make demands. Don't come with no education and you're making demands about high salary because cost of living gone up. No, the cost of living has nothing to do with salary. You will be paid according to your level. You cannot go to school and your favorite subjects were let out, break time, school over, and holiday, and expect to be paid well because things not cheap. Joke you making. You must eat the bread the devil need, because that, listen to me folks, wherever you find yourself in life at some point in time, you made an appointment to be there. Stop blaming other people. You cannot go to school and your favorite subjects were let out, break time, school over, and holiday, and expect to get high salary because cost of living gone up. Hell no. When your belly starts to touch your back, you will go and do what you need to do so that you can fetch a decent salary. It is not fair for you to come and get the same salary as somebody who's been to school, take their time and do what they need to do. And you just walk, joke you're making. You see how the old nastiness have among you? Foolish. Go and tell the old nastiness that he took you for a fool for too long and you're done with him. Because now you are left to fend for yourself. He had nothing to give you. You remember what he told his parliamentarians? When people come complaining that things bad, empathize with them, but don't give them nothing. Let them suffer some more so that they will get fed up with the government in power and they will bring us back. You don't see that as an evil man? That is a stinker of a man. That's an, what other name could you call that man but an old nastiness, a trickster, a con man, an evil man. You see, many of you love holiday, and yet for all, you come to work not realizing that there is a profession that caters to the love that you have for holiday. And based on your current level, that profession is the only profession you are qualified for. In fact, the old nastiness that you seem to love so much was so thoughtful that he left it in will for among you. What do you think that profession is? It has 2 weeks on and 3 to 6 months vacation. You're playing your life vacation? It is called debushing. Go and line up and get your debushing work. You like too much holiday. If you like holiday, take 2 weeks on. Hello? 2 weeks on, 3 to 6 months off. Change your attitude. If you don't change your attitude, you should be made to eat the bread the devil need. Stay in your lane if you don't like to work, and determine not to lift your standards and your levels. You see, ego, when conceived in a negative way, as synonymous with arrogance, is a product of ignorance. But is ignorance an ego state, though? You see, one of the ways in which ego manifests is through our ignorance. Incomplete knowledge, that is. When we are unaware of our own limitations, we tend to overestimate our abilities and downplay our weaknesses. This leads to a false sense of confidence that can be detrimental to our personal and professional growth. When many of us are given the choice to learn how our actions will affect someone else, it is estimated that as high as 40% of people will likely choose ignorance, often in order to have an excuse to act selfishly, according to research published by the American Psychological Association. You see, ignorance is harmful because you damage your self-esteem and render the way you see yourself of no importance. Again, ignorance is as a result of you choosing not to know. On a certain level, we know we are avoiding something or making a choice that affects others negatively. You see, when we know we aren't doing our best, it affects our identity and self-esteem, the way we see ourselves. You see, we need to make a conscious effort, folks, to control the ego and let humility lead the way. But how do we start? Reflect on where we are on the humility scale. The maxim that we can't change what we don't measure rings true here. So reflect on where we are on the humility scale. Exercise mindfulness, being consciously and intentionally attentive to what you are doing in the present moment, without, of course, judging. We must seek feedback from trusted sources. We must also lose ourselves in the flow, immersing ourselves totally in what we are doing. We have to make sure that we have critical friends who won't lead us astray. But we also have to cultivate a servant leadership philosophy. Do not see ourselves as any boss when we are the leader, but that we are leading while serving. You see, people who are focused on ego and consumed by it are most concerned with the opinions of others. And they compare their success and happiness to that achieved by others. You overcome this by simply comparing yourself to yourself. Did you grow today? Are you better at what you do today than you were yesterday? Compare who you are today versus who you were 6 months ago, 12 months ago, or even 5 years ago. Your level of growth, success, and happiness lies in your hands. You see, two of the best ways to quieten the ego are through the practice of self-compassion and that same mindfulness mentioned earlier. And what do we mean by mindfulness? Being consciously and intentionally attentive to what you are doing in the present moment without judging. We have to practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness that you might give to a dear friend or loved one who feels guilt, shame, and anger. These cannot be accomplished if you insist on being around noise and Grenada full of noise. Many of the people around you are helping to ease you into the ego state, as silently and unconsciously you feel the need to compare and compete. Such people need to be dropped so that you can take care of yourself without their useless and negative vibes. In this vein, you might find the following to be very useful. Don't compare yourselves to others. Comparing yourself with others is something your ego will always do. Always, dear student folks, put yourself in rooms where you are the least knowledgeable person. In this way, you can grow. If you are a C student, hang out with A students and watch the difference with your life. Never complain. Seek out the opportunity or opportunities cloaked in challenges. So stop complaining about challenges when you face them. Surrender your need for control. This requires too much fighting up. You see, keeping your ego in check in a world where comparison seems to be the norm can be difficult. I'm not telling you it's easy. If you insist on being with the crowd, that is. Do like me, become a recluse. So you don't have no crowd to deal with. and therefore no ego to deal with. However, the path to self-awareness and humility is not impossible. You see, people with the biggest ego may tend to dominate conversations, interrupt others, and disregard their ideas or opinions. They may also belittle or dismiss the achievements and accomplishments of others, seeing them as a threat to their own self-worth and status. If you don't keep your ego in check, you will not be fit company to hang around. You will surely remain ignorant and full of incomplete knowledge, which will lead to a miserable end, just like the man many of you still insist on following, that old nastiness. Let's take a little break, folks, and we come back with some more. A lot more where that came from. Oh, Lord have mercy.
EDDIE Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinions as only EDDIE Frederick can deliver. EDDIE Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze I know waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for. Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown out from the front. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, up, and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up the successful people together like
EDDIE Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only EDDIE Frederick can deliver. EDDIE Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, wonderful, folks. And thank you for your comment. Thank you for joining. And those of you who joined for the first time, thanks for coming in. And just keep that share button, keep your hand on it, because people are missing out today. I tell you, this is going to be a lot of inspiration and a lot of motivation for all of us, because in truth and in fact, a lot of Grenadians really need to be given a straight talking to. It's kind of sad that we have so many adults making asses of themselves on a daily basis in this country. Stuck in time. I remember years ago, saying on the program, there's no difference between a man who cannot read and a man who doesn't read. Because what is interesting is that the same amount of ignorance abound in both. And I remember one man meeting me in town asking me what I mean by that. I said, well, no, I wasn't speaking to you at all. You are. He said, oh, ho. So you get the message. I never forget that, That's one of the highlights of my period on radio for the last 38 years. That man actually told me, oh ho, because I wasn't speaking to him. Oh Jesus, he's safe. Folks, anyone who allows his or her ego to dominate his or her actions, let alone personality, is exhibiting a high level of ignorance. There must be balance. The truth is, we all have egos, believe it or not. What is wrong about having it is to allow it to overpower us and take over our very being. We see so many people being put together on boards of directors, management teams, as members of organizations who will not surrender their ego for hell. And such entities hardly get anything done. I recall the old saying, for God so loved the world that he never sent a committee. He sent one man. I also heard that a camel is a horse a committee tried to design. Could you imagine that? A camel is a horse a committee tried to design. You see, because everybody was not prepared to compromise. And because they wanted their contribution to the design to remain just their contribution, the camel was born. But you see, Mandy Spies, a transformation executive and change leadership coach, whom I follow on LinkedIn, recently shared her thoughts on ego and ignorance as follows. Of course, I adapted certain parts of it and put my own vibes into it. But for the most part, it is Mandy Spies' sharing. You see, we tend to view ignorance as a weakness, perhaps because it is so often used to describe others who intentionally ignore facts and information. But information isn't inherently bad. Ignorance isn't inherently bad. Ignorance is simply the lack of knowledge about a particular subject. In that respect, we are all ignorant about a great many things, regardless of the years of experience that we have, the skills we have mastered, or the position we hold. The key is to recognize when we are ignorant and open ourselves to learning from others in every experience we have. You see, ignorance only becomes dangerous and detrimental when we fail to accept and acknowledge it. Too many people in Grenada fail to accept and acknowledge that they are ignorant and proceed to make decisions that keep them stalled or permanently parked in the same undesirable spot for all their life. In essence, when we allow our ego and overconfidence to get the better of us, we lose big times. As individuals progress through their careers, they inevitably gain experience and confidence. But when this confidence is allowed to cloud good judgment and to ignore ideas from others, bad things happen. You see, folks, it's our ego that we should be most wary of. And yet it is ego that is perhaps one of the most common pitfalls among so many leaders today. They act as if they know it all and then stand in their own way, stymieing any chance of further growth. When a leader's ego gets in the way, the most immediate impact is on the people around them, especially members of his or her team. I have witnessed countless leaders who come to view their team members with a near contempt almost. Not smart enough, not good enough, or just plain incompetent. We do know of an inferior leader who reflects his inferiority by choosing anyone to be on his team who would obey all his commands because they are beholden to him. In fact, to be qualified to be on his team, you must be void of any original ideas. And if you have any, keep them to yourself. That about sums up the modus operandi of the old nastiness, who always has to be the smartest card in the pack. His assumption has always been that team members weren't smart enough to understand what he is doing and where he's coming from. What he, like so many other leaders, forgot is that one ascends to a position of leadership as much through circumstance as through ability. There are countless skilled and talented people in the world. For a person to assume that they arose to a position of leadership because they are smarter than or better than or more competent than everyone else only serves to set the stage for failure and feed their own ego. The old adage that we all put our pants on the same way still stands true. Exceptional leaders focus on the obligations and responsibilities that come with their role, not the privileges. Another consequence of leadership ego is not knowing when to let go, when their time is over. Many leaders demonstrate a consistent inability to let go of a personal idea, even when it becomes clear it's a bad idea. To let go of a position, even when it is obvious that they are too old and stale and expired for modern times. Consider how many projects and efforts have been pressed to continue and extended on life support long after they should have been killed, all because a leader wasn't willing to accept that his or her idea was bad and unworkable. Believe it or not, but not every idea is a bad one, and sometimes life doesn't follow your plans. Courage isn't driving harder and refusing to ignore the inevitable. Courage is being willing to step up and publicly acknowledge when a course of action hasn't worked and regroup and refocus with the team. Courage is to acknowledge that your time has passed and that you need to let go and move on so others could flourish. It's important to note that confidence is an essential trait for leaders. What I'm referring to here, however, is overconfidence and the resultant ego. There are many ways a leader can stay grounded without compromising people's faith and trust in them. First and foremost, consider a mentor. But let me throw you a curve. How many senior leaders do you think have solicited a mentor who is in their 20s or 30s? Not many. The world over, and in Grenada, none. Because older folks in Grenada feel young people don't know nothing. They ain't good for nothing. As if they're born not being good for nothing, when in truth and in fact, their adult parents are the ones who render them not good for nothing because never imparted any cultural transmission towards them. Never trained them properly. Never gave them opportunities. Never exposed them to anything. You see? But I want you to consider this. With each and every year of experience, we all form certain paradigms and filters for how we view the world. And with each year, these filters become more and more pervasive. Experience is a double-edged sword, folks. It allows us to use previous knowledge on current problems, but will also steer us in comfortable ways based on what we know. But what we know may not be relevant today, as we are now finding out. We have a lot of people about politics, and when they come with their ideas, stale as an old fart. No relevance to today, but they're coming with these old nonsense because they never grew, they never evolved. Someone right out of college may lack experience, but they also lack filters that prevent a more seasoned leader from seeing the world in a way and form a very different perspective with currency. You see, in addition to having good mentorship, it is also recommended that you have someone who can be your reality check, the lead weight to your balloon, always keeping you grounded. On many occasions, such trusted friend would take you aside and tell you just how ridiculous and stupid you were. This feedback isn't always easy to hear, but by listening and trusting, you ought to have become a better leader and thus avoided some potentially bad mistakes. If you don't have something, or someone rather, that you trust enough to give you honest feedback, it's probably because your ego has gotten in the way and you've shown that you aren't willing to listen. Let's face it, none of us is perfect. And no matter how good of a leader you think you are, you are capable of making some really serious mistakes. But the odds of making mistakes, especially big ones, goes up exponentially when you allow your ego to get in the way. An essential trait for all leaders is humility. That doesn't have to come at the expense of confidence. Our current Prime Minister is both humble and confident. You can see it every day. Two qualities you could never find together in the old nastiness. Not now, not ever. In fact, you can find plenty confidence to do wrong thing, to lie, to grumble, to con others, to belittle others, and anything that is not in keeping with a proper leader, you could find in the old nastiness. It's embodied by the old nastiness. We must all remember that the consequences of making a mistake as a leader will not only impact you, but your team and potentially many others, as we are seeing within the National Nasty Party under the old nastiness's leadership. You see, as leaders, we have an obligation to make sure that we listen to those around us, remain open to new ideas, and acknowledge our own ignorance. You see, ignorance is equal to incomplete knowledge and lead to a miserable end. Before I end this segment, folks, I just want to let you know that these days I am receiving so many notes and letters of commendation and appreciation. It isn't funny. Most of them appear in the inbox message section of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and don't talk about WhatsApp. Wow. Some people go to my website to get my email address and even phone number to make contact with me to register their gratefulness and gratitude. There's one in particular I would like to share with you. This one was received on Wednesday last. Dear Mr. Frederick, I am one who never feel moved to pen anything about anything in Grenada. But since we last spoke, I felt the urge to do this. As I sat here thinking, I can recall how much I have benefited from your sharing over the years and thought a little thank you ought to go a long way for you. You have impacted me too from the years at convent when you used to come to motivate us, the time when Sister Gabrielle was the principal. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to make a few observations and deliver well-deserved commendations to you for your service. It has always dawned on me how consistent you have been over the years. You deliver time and time again, in spite of any naysayers, proving that you are truly committed to your purpose. Anyone who is not convinced by now that you are not interested in making friends would do well to stop being upset by your public utterances and take note instead, as your messages are both well-reasoned in their flow, logical and realistic. You really have a way with words, a true gift indeed. No one can ever doubt your consistency. When you said you are the 8th day of the week, I could not agree with you more. You are probably Grenada's most unrecognized and unsung hero. No one should be surprised at this, as many people are more prone to being told what they want to hear, a business you have proved to be in for a minute. You call a spade regardless of in whose hands it is. You are never scared to raise hell with anything or about anything you deem not to be right in your eyes. I once heard you say you get a rush from being controversial, and went on to explain what being controversial means, as that of giving rise or likely to give rise to public disagreement. And do you rock the boat? Your obvious background in local history from your days at the museum, of which you seem proud, gives you away as a man with plenty knowledge. So much so you can explain the hero's introduction to politics at the age of 25, proceeding to succeed at the age of 29 in 1951, some 73 years ago when Eric Gary came on the scenes. I like that you ask, what are the current 25 to 29-year-olds doing with their life to assert themselves and assume meaningful leadership through responsibility today, in spite of being exposed to so many more opportunities to be further ahead than their parallels were back then. I like that you contrast Grenada at 50 with Singapore at 60 and show how poor leadership has us way in the back, while Lee Kuan Yew's excellent leadership has the people of Singapore enjoying the highest standard of living and quality of life in the world today. You have been methodic and deliberate in your deliveries, which have and continue to have me thinking. Anyone with a modicum of sense would do well to tune into you and learn from you. I have learned so much from you over the years via your broadcasts, and within the last 2 years, you've come to our workplace to deliver motivational sessions, and several of my co-workers have inspired to not be the same. You influenced positive change among us, and we are today enjoying better relationships during working hours to the benefit of overall productivity. My daughter came from school in a rush one day and could not wait for us, her parents, to return home to start to tell us what an impact you had on her class with your motivational straight talk laced with humor. She always remembers little pearls you dropped like, "He who acts casually will surely become a casualty. Don't be a statue to a critic. Grow through life and not go through life. If you keep on doing what you're doing, you will keep on getting what you're getting," etc., etc. You are gifted in this realm, and your sternness is to be admired because you mean well for the people who encounter you. You are the first person I ever heard say, "I am like medicine. May taste bad, but good for you." If only the government could find a way for you to be opted to motivate all the Imanis and visit community centers all over Grenada and wake up the youth with all the positive pearls you share, Grenada will surely be better for it. Mr. Frederick, I commend you for your work and salute you for your sacrifice. It is my time to motivate you by telling you something that I'm sure you probably already knew. Quote, "Success is a lonely journey. Most people will never understand why you are so driven and why you are so obsessed with your journey. Even if it means you stand alone, you are admired and prayed for by those of us who understand and appreciate your calling. According to you, peace." Here ends that particular sharing, folks. All I can say is thank you, Madame. You made my day, and I'm sure I made yours with sharing this as you sternly requested. Folks, when you are a frank person, as I am, you tend to have no time for ego or false pride. Having set up your personal boundaries and built your very high fence, you are well protected to maintain your authenticity regardless of the reactions of others. I invite you weekly to join me in this regard. Ignorance equals incomplete knowledge and leads to a miserable end. Let's take a little break here and we come back to our final segment, folks, which should be a little extended in its own character. So, let's take a break.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, country cold store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest beers on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've gone. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
As we aspire, we let us one people together. Bang, bang, bang. Only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, wonderful. And of course, as I told you, we're going to the final segment now. It's going to be a little bit extended because I just have to put my thoughts down together. You know, I just have to. For those of you just coming in for this final segment, of course, we have a lot of people missing today. You know why? They went to FET last night. They went to the Reggae Fest, which was properly promoted, well attended. I'm very happy that all these big acts can come to Grenada and move us so much. Of course, people traveled. People traveled into Grenada, be a part of that Reggae Fest. If it's going to be an annual event, oh boy, tell me about it. It can only grow bigger and bigger. Lots of Carriacou, citizens of Carriacou came down. That was so beautiful, man, to see the boat being filled with our sister islanders, you know, coming down to this Reggae Fest. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And we have an Ivy Furlong here who has just joined, saying, listening from Toronto. Welcome, welcome, my dear. So, welcome back. Keep hitting that share button, whether the program is on live or not. Just keep sharing, because it's about time we get to give people, or Grenadian folks, a straight talking to. Because this enemy is ego. We have so much of it. You see the little nastiness running around, full of ego. Ego. Ego is false pride, folks. Ego is fakeness. Ego is that overabundance of confidence. Confidence to thief, to do all kind of wrong thing. That's what that ego is all about. Anytime you are different, folks, you will become a target of old talk, of the envious and jealous around you. Always remember that. You being different will make you controversial. The Bible tells us that Jesus was radical. He hung out with sinners. The body of the church today disqualifies you and decries you when they see you with sinners, even though they claim to serve a God who embraces and never turns his back on sinners. The religious people criticize Jesus because he was radical. You see, the ego encourages too many people that we know to constantly prove themselves and what they already know. When some of us are in the presence of someone that we feel we need to impress, Jesus help us. The ego's automatic response is, I know. When some of us are in the presence of someone, our ego thinks we're smarter, richer, more experienced than us. Our ego tells us, I know what they're thinking. I know what they're thinking about me. When some of us are in the presence of someone that our ego believes is not as smart, rich, or experienced as we probably are, I know is the way to cut them off. The moment you say, I know, you are demonstrating that you don't know. You can learn something valuable from everyone in every situation. You must never be stupid enough to say or smart enough to admit that you know what someone else is thinking about. The moment you do so, your learning stops. Let me see you affirm, folks, in the comment section. Come on, time for you to get some participative, situation going here. Let's get some interaction. I want you to write in the comment section, I am open and willing to learn. If you really consider the Sunday classes, follow my instructions and write in the comment section, I am open and willing to learn. I am open and willing to learn. That is a registration of humility. I am open and willing to learn. Let me see you put that in the comment section today, folks. You see, when you are open and willing to learn, this shows that you have pride in yourself. You see, Stuart will tell us, pride that you express to others is ego. Pride that you express silently and consistently to yourself is real pride. When you're proud of yourself, you show it, you feel it, and you know it. It shines in your eyes, the way you speak, the way you carry your very being. You are proud because you could and you did. You can and you will. You cannot, but you know it, and it is still okay. When you are proud, you do. You give and you share, rather than take, talk, and promise. Pride is peaceful service, joy-filled sharing, in a knowing that there is more to come. Isn't it interesting? Pride doesn't argue to be right, push to get ahead, step over others to get there and forget them once it does. Pride is gentle, calm, and balanced. It is not boastful, frightened, or hurried. Pride is pleasant. Pride is grateful. Pride is peaceful, patient, and poised. Pride is secure, but pride is also mastery. But most of all, pride is silent. Doesn't that sound like I just described the decent Deacon Mitchell that we elected as Prime Minister, as against the jagabat of an old nastiness he replaced on the 23rd of June 2022? Folks, I am gently, calmly, silently proud of me and what and who I am. Are you? Remember, I am willing to learn is what you should put in the comment section. That shows you have humbled yourself to knowledge. Always remember, folks, ego is the enemy. And there is a book by that name, by Ryan Holiday. This book explores the destructive nature of ego and its impediment to success. It offers insights into how ego can hinder personal growth and achievements. First off, all of us have ego. We need to come to terms with the fact that our ego wants to protect our identity. We must have a daily practice of humility where we are willing to be corrected, willing to take advice. We are willing to learn and adapting a student mentality as a core value of our mission and the way we show up that ought to help us keep our ego in check. When it comes to people in our lives who may not agree with us and try to discourage us from chasing our dream and doing something meaningful, whatever it is, when it comes to conversations with them, the best thing you can do is to invite them to see what you are doing and how what you are doing is meaningful. Never be one to say, I did this without you, I did it myself. No, the ego is something we have to constantly and consistently try to squash. Humility must be the counterbalance in terms of core values that will cause you to believe that you are where you are because the God we serve blessed us abundantly, and we ought to have a lot of gratitude for that. We have to know that nothing that we have done is by ourselves. It is not our amazing greatness that we are here. No. People have poured into us. People have shouted our praises in rooms we have no business being in. People have spoken highly of us because they have seen our work. We have to approach our platform of life with the question, am I creating content with my life that would make anyone proud? How about yourself? We have to remember that a certain percentage of people in our lives are going to try to discourage us. Sometimes, folks, it is not even coming from a bad place. It is to protect us because they do not want to see our dreams crushed. They don't want to see us end up homeless. They don't want to see us lose money. The more you spend time lying and telling dishonest stuff, the more you spend time trying to grow yourself through that, it is the more you are getting God away from you. It is ordained that every human being that we know has a desire to be the best version of themselves and maximize their possibilities in life. Not many of them are willing to pay a price to see that become reality. What they do not realize is that dreams without action ends up in a nightmare. Personal development must become a core area of your life, and you must be intentional, specific, and consistent about it. Folks, ignorance leads to an end of the road where you will surely meet up with poverty. Both ignorance and poverty speak to lack. Hate poverty as you should hate ignorance. They both will destroy you and make you slaves. This has nothing to do with prosperity. There must be intentional commitment from all of us that we will never be poor. Our children will never be poor. Grenada will never be poor. Under the watch of our current leaders, Grenada will never be poor. We are not going to be just spiritually vibrant, but we will also be economically vibrant and alive. Attitudes have got to change around here. A people who are not economically vibrant will become and remain slaves and will transfer that slavery mentality to their children. We need to break away from that curse of 1995 to 2022 for the most part. Forward ever, backward never. You see, not too long ago, when we presented our local passport anywhere in the world, especially Britain, the US, and Canada, even some regional sister territories, we could have seen the look on the immigration officers' faces. In our lifetime, we will change this. It's only 2 years now, and we've never yearned to return to this era of shame as presided over by that old nastiness and his inferior infidels. We have to realize that the spirit of prosperity, or poverty, is a spirit that is assigned to individuals. The spirit of poverty is assigned to individuals. And that assignment of the spirit of poverty is to study the extent of your ignorance and to build systems around that ignorance that stop you from making any meaningful progress in your life. The Bible that many of you love to quote and quote tells us, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. It never said that weapons will not be formed. What it said is that they shall not prosper. Poverty, like prosperity, is an effect, not a cause. Your whole situation is studied by the forces of the universe, and systems are built either through pride or laziness, or stopping you from developing strategic relationships. Everything that is designed that can stop you from accessing the keys that will bring you out. That is the assignment of the spirit of poverty. It now becomes a stronghold upon your life and your destiny, making the word of non-effect. Making the word of God of non-effect. You see, one of the integral parts of poverty is entitlement. You start feeling that everybody should be helping you except you. You don't owe anybody anything. the whole world owes you instead. So you have problems with an uncle or aunt that don't even know you exist because they have and they don't give you anything. You know how many Grenadians sitting down here having problems with a lot of you Grenadians back in the US just because you can't send barrel as often as before? Bold, because they have a spirit of entitlement and dependency. They're vexed with among you because you're not delivering as you used to. As Dr. Miles Monroe once said, poor people pursue money. Rich people pursue things. Wealthy people pursue purpose. Poor people spend the money. Rich people buy things. Wealthy people grow money. Poor people talk about money all the time. Rich people talk about things they have. Wealthy people talk about ideas. You see, the secret to being successful is to pursue purpose, grow your investments, and let your conversations discuss ideas. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th and most celebrated president of the United States, wisely said, "The future is forged by the choices you make today." You see, folks, discipline is choosing what you want now and what you want most. This is not about denying yourself pleasure, but about prioritizing your dreams and fleeting desires. Every decision you make is a building block towards your goals. Embrace discipline as your compass and let it guide your steps towards your truly desired outcome. You see, sacrifice the temporary for the enduring. Aim high as discipline achieves greatness. A lot of people in our neck of the woods would do well to sacrifice the 2 ultra-modern cell phones for running water in their house where they live so that they can sleep a little longer, wake up in time to shower properly, rather than have to go through the stress of waking up early to drug water every morning. Those 2 ultra-modern cell phones, if you go to Digicel or Lime to purchase them, they are worth over 3,000 EC dollars each. Sell one, put running water in your house. Sell one, start to put a proper toilet in your house, a flush toilet in your house, so you have your conveniences under one roof. Sacrifice spending money on all unnecessary things like eyelashes, weave-ons, and the various wigs and outfits for healthy meals and a proper place to live. Sacrifice, folks. Make your priorities show you up as somebody whose life is well ordered and structured. You see, the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank one day, not too long ago, said Caribbean people within the ECU, they prioritize spending their money, their hard-earned little caca, on their wants. And then they go on all call-in programs decrying the government because they want the government to supply their needs. Once I gave a particular woman a lift. It was a Wednesday after a carnival. And she told me, "Oh God, Brother Frederick, I play everything. I play everything. Oh God, but I'm tired. I'm tired and I just come from work and I go to my sleep. First I'm tired." And just before I dropped her, a parting request to me was, you know how them children and them, they go to school, school opening just now. You can't get a little help with them and their books. I say, "No, you just tell me you play everything? Well, you play everything for free? Where are your priorities? You play everything to the point where you're tired, you go to my sleep, and you're asking me who will play nothing because I have my priorities right. If I could help you with your children," I said, "My dear, why don't go? Go about your business. Fight up, see how you could fight up." Isn't that something? That is the kind of people we live in around. And you know what the problem is? These asses can vote. Hello? And I'm dropping it just as it needs to be dropped. Gotta tell among you already, me want a damn friend. I'm dropping it just how it needs to be dropped. Because the place is a vexing place. The people are just abjectly poor in the mind. No priorities. But they want to distress you. I tell you, my mother teach me since I go to school. When she forced and buy 2 pens for me, one for the bag and one for your pocket. One for you to use and the other one is spare. You come asking me if I have a spare pen. My mother didn't give me no spare pen for you. She gave me 2 pens and both of them is mine. Because she wanted me to grow up in a structured and ordered way. When the pen is finished, well, you don't have no mother, your mother don't think so too. You ain't even coming to school with one. What kind of mother you have? Where you living? You come out in a crab hole? And so I used to ask them since I was small growing up because that's how my mother was. As she drop it back on them. Set your priorities straight, folks. If a lot of you set your priorities straight, you won't be wrong in hand and tongue begging. You have a big Dunhill cigarette in your top pocket. How much you pack? $12.50. But you're asking me when you see me if I can lay a hole at $10. What do you mean lay a hole? I didn't know $10 couldn't hold in my wallet. It's not big. $10 not big. So it's holding in my pocket. And it's mine. Go and get yours. Go and work. Those days with all this old dirty politician among you, following all about using the treasury as a feeding ground. All those days done. And that's why I tell you, hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. God forbid among you stupid to bring him back. Don't bring he back. Because all he doing is helping to loot the place for his own status-starved nonsense. What is sacrifice, folks? Simply put, giving up something you know that is good for something you believe to be better. And a better life is always worth the sacrifice. The grandparents and old parents of today's civilization in Singapore made all the necessary sacrifices in the early part of the country's development so that their children and grandchildren today can enjoy what they are enjoying with pride. Any blind man can see the sad and sorry state of our current development is an equivalent reflection, the little to no sacrifice made by past generations as led by that old nastiness. We are so embroiled in rights. Who offends who? Pettiness with just about everybody minding everybody's business except their own. They're barely touching their back of hunger, but they know your business. Mawet and Tebe, that manipulators came up through the cracks of our perpetual contempt and discord to do their own thing while taking advantage of the ignorance of the majority to keep them down and oppressed. With other strong arms of society, like unions, the Chamber of Commerce, NGOs, churches, etc., following suit to be led by individuals with large egos. Most of us want to be singled out, patted on the back and rewarded for what we do. It may never happen. However, that does not mean that what we do is not valuable or worthy of recognition. No one is special in God's eyes. We are all provided with the ability to do. What we have not been taught is to do good just for the sake of doing it, without pursuing rewards or recognition. When you do what you can for the sake of doing it, the reward is an improvement of the skills. When you use what you know, do what you can, and someone else benefits, that is recognition. You see, we all have a need to be appreciated for the contributions we make to the world. We must learn to recognize our own value before the world can respond to our needs. Some of us will plant the seed and never see the plant. Some of us will harvest the crop without knowing the planter. Some of us will eat the plant, paying someone else to prepare it. You see, when the process is complete, we will all be rewarded, recognizing how special the process has been to us all. Folks, I do my part. I am rewarded when others do theirs. You see, Sarah Vaughan reminds us in our own words I am not a special person. I am a regular person who does special things. We have people in our public sphere who are not accepting their irrelevance at almost quarter of a century into the 21st century. Isn't that sad? We hop from political organization to political organization looking for relevance. In the process, we lose all self-respect. And anyone who may have respected us in the past for a sterling gold back then have slipped into ridiculing us, either covertly or overtly. This fuels our ego, which is not in agreement with people's interpretation of us. And so we lash out. We are the most vehement of manners, decent people who have replaced the otherwise indecent among us. We give the attention we seek, but for the wrong reasons, and most times we end up the biggest losers. What Stuart said years ago has become true. The ego needs recognition. The spirit does not need to thank itself. The ego wants to be noticed. It needs stroking, pumping up, and of course, it needs the limelight. The ego needs compete just to prove that it is better. It senses danger around every corner, difficulty in every challenge, and trouble coming through everyone. The ego can never be enough, do enough, or have enough. The goal of the ego is to be well liked and authorized because, for some reason, it does not feel qualified. The ego is qualified only by its own imposing itself on others. But the spirit is qualified by light. The light of truth, peace, joy, and love. It does not seek to condemn, condone, or even compromise what it is. It simply knows and is that. You see, the spirit does what it can and moves on to something else. It does not ask for an award or wait for rewards. It is just spirit being spirit. One of the difficult problems in the world is the competition of egos. They want to be noticed and applauded, so they compete for dominance. You find that in many organizations, businesses, management levels, etc. You see, when we truly understand that we are spiritual beings, we will no longer have a need for recognition. We will do what can because we can do it by virtue of the light of spirit. I want you to write in the comment section, folks, today I will go unnoticed and just do my thing. Today I will go unnoticed and just do my thing. Let me see you, folks. You say you're in class. If you're in class, let me see you become obedient students. Write in the comment section. Today I will go unnoticed and do my thing. Today I will go unnoticed and do my thing. It is so important, folks, for us to understand that ego is really and truly an enemy for us to avoid. We need to avoid the ego as the plague because it is sickening. It is really, really sickening. All where you pass is some nonsense. You see it on the social media platforms where people just can't scroll past something they don't agree with. People cannot scroll past something they cannot handle. People have to jump in with their lack. Because you know what today's subject matter is? Ignorance equals incomplete knowledge. And it leads you to a miserable end. That is what ignorance is all about. And when you manifest this level of ignorance, what were you doing? Leave it alone. Folks, I don't have to tell you and make it fanfare about blocking or deleting anybody. When I have found people have become too satanic, too noisy, too undesirable, in my sphere, whether it is the stratosphere or in real life, I delete. Go, go from here. You chase them, but no noise. You just dismiss them. You see them on the road. Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you. All right, yeah, good, all right. And you keep it moving. You keep it moving. If more people are like this, I think this place would be straight. But too much goddamn hypocrisy. And hypocrisy, folks, is a byproduct of ignorance, dunceness. Because if you are happy with who you are, you can stand and tell anybody anything. Anything. Isn't that interesting? Folks, so as I get ready to take my leave here today, I just remind you, ignorance equals incomplete knowledge and leads to miserable end for too many among us. Yet so many of us proceed in our ignorance to get the same results, but we go back for seconds and thirds and fourths as if the results will change on their own. Folks, I am in, I'm out, and I'm gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time, same place, for more extraordinary programming. Until then, I beg you to stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant and lifted. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, share, and in some cases, you can even follow. And be prepared to receive your multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. I see somebody's asking me to repeat. Today's topic again, ignorance equals incomplete knowledge, and it leads to a miserable end. Peace and blessings to all of you folks. To live. Have a wonderful week. Change your attitudes, because that is what we need to go into life with. We need to go with an open mind so that we can learn, take on board new thoughts, new ideas, new thinking, so that we can grow from strength to strength and make it in this life. All the very best to you. So take very, very good care of yourself.
Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do a continued positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with pushing fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up us as one people.